HOA fined me for an unauthorized gathering. It was my daughter's wedding. Have you ever planned a perfect day, only to have it shattered by someone's petty power trip? That's exactly what happened to Sarah Thompson when her daughter Emily's dream wedding turned into a neighborhood nightmare. It was supposed to be a day of love and celebration, but one woman, Karen Whitaker, the HOA's self-appointed enforcer, decided it was her personal mission to ruin it all. Sarah had spent months planning Emily's backyard wedding at their home in Willow Creek, a quiet suburban community governed by a strict homeowners association. The Thompsons followed every rule in the HOA's covenants, conditions, and restrictions, CC and RS, meticulously maintaining their lawn, keeping decorations subtle, and ensuring their home blended with the neighborhood's pristine aesthetic. For the wedding, they planned a modest gathering of 50 guests, well within the HOA's limits for private events, as long as they kept noise levels down and parked cars in designated areas. Sarah even submitted a courtesy notice to the HOA board, though the CC and RS didn't explicitly require it for gatherings under 75 people. The board acknowledged her notice without objection, and she assumed all was well. But Karen Whitaker, the HOA president with a reputation for micromanaging, had other plans. Karen was notorious in Willow Creek for her relentless rule enforcement, fining neighbors for overgrown hedges, unapproved mailbox colors, and even Christmas lights left up past January 15th. Her clipboard was her weapon, and her daily patrols were the stuff of local legend. Sarah had heard the stories but never imagined Karen would target her daughter's wedding. The day of the wedding arrived, bright and warm, with the Thompson backyard transformed into a vision of elegance. White roses adorned the tables, soft music played, and Emily glowed in her gown as she prepared to marry her high school sweetheart, James. Guests mingled, laughter filled the air, and the ceremony was moments away. Then, like a storm cloud rolling in, Karen appeared at the edge of the property, her SUV parked crookedly across two spaces in the cul-de-sac. She stormed through the gate, clipboard in hand, her voice cutting through the music like a siren. "This is an unauthorized gathering," Karen shouted, waving a copy of the CC and RS. "You didn't get approval for this event, and you're in violation of multiple regulations." Sarah, stunned, approached her calmly, explaining that she'd notified the board and followed every rule. But Karen wasn't listening. She pointed to a single string of fairy lights draped over the fence, technically unapproved decor, and declared the entire event a breach of community standards. Guests froze, the officiant paused, and Emily's eyes filled with tears as Karen demanded the celebration stop immediately. What Karen didn't know was that Sarah wasn't alone in this fight. Among the guests was Tom Reynolds, a retired attorney who'd moved to Willow Creek a year earlier. Tom had clashed with Karen before over a fine for his unauthorized birdhouse and had since studied the HOA's governing documents inside out. As Karen ranted, Tom stepped forward, his calm demeanor a stark contrast to her fury. "Karen," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "the CC and RS don't require approval for gatherings under 75 people, and Sarah's notice to the board was a courtesy, not a requirement. You're overstepping." The crowd murmured, and Karen's face reddened, but she doubled down, insisting she'd issue a $500 fine and report the Thompsons to the board. The confrontation escalated as Karen, emboldened by her authority, began snapping photos of the setup, claiming the tables violated spacing rules and the music exceeded noise limits, though no one else had complained. In a moment of spite, she yanked down a string of lights, causing a table to wobble and the wedding cake to crash to the ground. Gasps echoed through the yard. Emily sobbed, and James rushed to her side, while Sarah's anger boiled over. "This is my daughter's wedding," she shouted. "You're ruining it over nothing." Karen smirked, unfazed, and declared she'd be back with a formal violation notice. But Tom had a surprise up his sleeve. He'd been recording the entire encounter on his phone, capturing Karen's aggressive behavior and the cake incident. He quietly pulled Sarah aside and suggested she file a formal complaint with the HOA board, citing Karen's abuse of power. Meanwhile, the wedding continued, though the joy was dampened. Guests rallied around Emily and James, helping clean up the cake and salvaging the ceremony. The couple exchanged vows under the stars, but Sarah couldn't shake the sting of Karen's intrusion. The next day, a violation notice arrived, demanding $500 for the unauthorized gathering and an additional $200 for excessive decorations. Sarah, fueled by anger and Tom's encouragement, decided to fight back. She and Tom gathered evidence: the courtesy notice she'd sent, emails from the board acknowledging it, and Tom's video of Karen's meltdown. They also collected statements from neighbors who attended the wedding and confirmed the event was quiet and contained. To Sarah's surprise, another neighbor, Mrs. Patel, came forward with her own story. Karen had fined her $300 for planting tulips instead of approved shrubs, and Mrs. Patel was ready to join the fight against Karen's tyranny. At the HOA board hearing, Sarah presented her case with Tom's legal guidance. The room was packed with neighbors, many of whom had their own grievances against Karen. Sarah detailed the wedding's compliance with the CC and RS, showed the board's acknowledgement of her notice, and played Tom's video, which drew audible gasps as Karen was seen destroying the cake. Mrs. Patel testified about Karen's pattern of selective enforcement, pointing out that Karen's own backyard had unapproved patio furniture that mysteriously escaped fines. The evidence was undeniable. Karen had abused her authority, and the fines were baseless. The board, visibly uncomfortable, deliberated for only 20 minutes before ruling in Sarah's favor. The fines were voided, and Karen was removed as HOA president for violating the board's code of conduct. The community erupted in applause, but the real victory came when the board issued a public apology to the Thompsons, acknowledging Karen's overreach. Rumors swirled that Karen faced her own fines for damaging property during her outburst, and her reputation in Willow Creek was shattered. Neighbors who once feared her clipboard now ignored her, and she retreated into her home, her reign of terror over. Sarah and Emily found closure, though the wedding's memory was bittersweet. The community rallied around them, hosting a potluck to celebrate the newlyweds and mend the wounds Karen had inflicted. Sarah learned a valuable lesson about standing up to petty tyrants, and Tom became the neighborhood's unofficial hero, offering to help others challenge unfair HOA rules. Willow Creek began revising its CC and RS to limit the board's power, ensuring no one could weaponize rules like Karen had. In the end, love triumphed over bureaucracy. Emily and James started their life together, and Sarah vowed to never let a Karen steal their joy again. What do you think? Have you ever faced an overzealous HOA, and how did you handle it? Share your thoughts and let's spark a conversation about fairness and community.